Hey guys, so I finally got around to updating the topology for my base mesh, and it was a long process and the topology is still not perfect. But what I wanted to go over in this video is I've got some rough UVs on this guy and just in a single tile here, and I wanted to show you how to take a single UV tile and then split them up into Udims. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, I don't necessarily know if you need an entire video to go over this, but I'm just going to show you my method. So I'm hoping to have three versions of this. One with a single tile for, whatever low resolution textures. Just makes it easier to have it on a single tile. And then I'm going to do a 4 tile with roughly all of these even, maybe a little bit more texture density on the face area. And then I'm going to do a third one, which will be entirely focused on the face, and it'll be like 5 tiles, I want to say. Well, we're going to figure that out today. But have the face split up into a bunch of tiles, really high res, and this will be for like close-up renders to get the extreme pore detail in there. So let's get started. You can see I have another video you can check out on the channel that goes over how to UV, or my methodology for UVing the body and the face. And that was on my previous base mesh with different topology, but it's similar enough. The cuts are pretty much the same. So you can go and watch that if you want to see how I got to this result. But for now, we're going to just work on separating this up into 4 tiles. So first thing, make sure that your symmetry is off. And I think I've talked about this in previous videos, but if I go in here and select UV shell, it'll select my... Well, this is a little laggy. This said smooth on. I think that was slowing it down. So what I was saying is, if you go in here and select UV shell, it will select both sides, whatever was symmetrical to the other side. And then if you might say, well, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but if you go to rotate, it'll rotate both of them. And then, I have soft select on. You won't be able to select them individually. And if the way you unwrap them or laid them out wasn't perfect and you want to rotate them individually, you won't be able to do that. So probably best to work with symmetry off. Likewise, you can just select both of them and get that same effect. So no need to have that on. All right, so this first tile is just going to be face. Second tile is going to be torso. Third tile, let's do arms. And then fourth tile will be, and I'm just holding control to deselect these tiles. And then the fourth tile will be legs. So we can just select all the tiles that we want, or the UV tiles that or UV shells that we want to fill up this entire tile, and then hit Control L, and that will do a decent job. But we want a little bit more texture density on the front part of the face, because I mean the majority of the back of the head is going to be covered with hair in most circumstances. And then these tiles, this is like the inside of the mouth and the ears and the inside of the eyes, the eye bags, which you will almost certainly never see. So these can be all very small. Oh, and then these are the nostrils, which you will almost certainly never see, or at least not clearly. So let's just put these up to the side for now. So the thinking here is I want to make this as large as possible to fit within this single tile. Actually, if I just hit Control L, it it should fit. You got to be careful sometimes. Control L, you have to check your settings, but it will give you a little bit of overlap into the next tile, and that can screw everything up, and your computer will think that this tile now counts as a whole Udim. Let's see. So let's scale this down a little bit. Move this off to the side. We'll scale this guy down. And he probably fits best right here. Then I'll scale this down. The ears can stay as they are, but I'll put them next to each other. And it's nice to have them all facing the same way. I don't usually do a lot of like procedural texturing. It's usually all texturing by hand. But if you were to go in, it's nice to have them all, facing upright or all to the left or something. So that when you apply those procedural maps, it matches up across the shells. And then the nostrils down here. And then I always like to see, is there any way I could squeeze a little bit more in? But I don't think there is without actually like stretching the tiles. And that's probably enough texture density for right here. Alright, let's move on to the torso. So you don't necessarily need to split up the front and the back, and I could actually connect one of these seams here, but I'm just going to leave it like this. And I can actually hit Control L, and that will blow it up as large as possible. And then you want to shrink it down just a hair. It's good to give yourself a little bit of a buffer, especially along the edges here, so that the texture doesn't bleed into the next tile, or from one tile into the next. Alright. These I'm actually going to turn to the side. Let me actually hit Control L and see how it does this. Yeah, that's what I thought. So it shifted their positions a little bit. Let me just drag these across. And it looks like there's a little bit of overhang here. And you might think, well, that doesn't seem like much, but it will. It will cause you a lot of issues. Scale this down ever so slightly. And if you're exporting like 4K or 8K maps, this is going to be more than enough texture resolution for almost anything that you're trying to do. Alright, let's do Control L again. See how that did that. I wasn't super happy with that. The bottoms of the feet really don't need a ton of texture density. I mean, it might be nice, but I think that the legs and the tops of the feet are probably a little bit more important. But let's Control L here. I don't know why it chooses to do that. I'm just going to scale them up manually. Scale these guys up a little bit more. And then scale these guys up. And I think I can get them to fit a little bit better this way. One last check, make sure everything's fitting. These guys can actually probably get a little bit more. Yeah, they're good. So now let's go check our texture resolution. I turn on the checkerboard and I can go into... Where's my guy? Did I hide him? Oh, there he is. Oh. Let's soften the edges here, because I was getting that strange hard edge look. And then Shift-Alt-D will delete the history. Shading hardware texture. Huh. It's only showing up when I have them clicked. So this is about what we want. You can see how much tighter the checkerboard here is on the front of the face. And let me hide the eyes so you can see in here how much larger each one of these individual squares are compared to the front of the face. And it looks pretty clean, not a ton of texture stretching, a little bit here. These aren't perfect squares. Let me hit 3 and smooth it. Sometimes that gives you a better idea. Because I probably won't be working with this mesh in this resolution. This is this is the lowest subdivision level. I usually step up a subdivision level, but it looks like the squares are about even. It doesn't really need to be perfect, especially if you're not working with like procedural texturing techniques. And it looks like the bottoms of the feet actually have about the same texture resolution as the tops of the feet and the legs. So that ended up working out that way. Alright, let's save this guy as 4-tile Udim. And then I will duplicate this. And then let's call this... We don't know how many tiles this one's going to be, so we'll just call it face Udim for now. Alright, so let's turn this checkerboard off. So for this one, let me hide this guy. So this one we're actually going to make some cuts and rearrange some of the shells of the face itself. So let's take all these shells and do Control-L and just put them on a single tile for now. I might choose to split them up and have one massive Udim section here. Is that really how it did? That's really the most optimized way? It left this half of a shell. See, sometimes it's better to manually rearrange. Oh well. Let's see. Let's move these to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6th tile for now. And these guys can just chill up here for now, because I want to slice this face up. So you can do this in your viewport, select which edges you want, but I think it's a little bit easier in the UV editor mode, because when I select an edge, it doesn't continue on to the other tile. So I'm working within that tile. So if I wanted to split this face in half, which I do... Oh, why did it stop? Oh, I really hope I don't have an error. Oh, because of the... I thought I didn't have a perfect center line going down my model for a second. No, it stopped because of the mouth bag. Not a big deal. But what I was going to say is, you really... if you were going to choose to split this guy up in half, and I would select that line here, we'll go through the entire model. So, a little bit easier to work in your UV space. So all I have to do is select this one, go down to this, continue that center line where the UV shell was broken, and then hit Shift X to cut, and Shift S will sew. So if you wanted to undo that. So let's do Shift X, and then let's do another cut along the corners of the mouth. Shift X. And let's do another cut along the middle of the eye. Shift X. And let's cut out just below the chin. Let's see where this is. This line is probably good, or this just looks like a better line to cut. You won't really see under here. Although when you're making tiles this large and you export out of 4K or 8K, you will not see these the UV seams almost certainly. So let's Shift X. And then I'm wondering if I want to maybe split this off where the hairline is here. And then just have like the forehead section, because we're not really going to see up here. And then I can just connect this to the back of the head. I think that's what I'll do. So Shift X. And then I'm going to take this guy and this guy, which should connect to the top here, and say Shift S, which now looks horrible. And then I just select that shell and say Control U. And I'll sew this edge up. Control or Shift S, select the UV shell again, hit Control U, and there you go. So these are I guess these are the 6 main tiles that we really need to worry about having the most texture density, and these will probably take up 1 shell each, or 3 shells. I guess 2 per tile, and then the neck can be its own shell as well. So let's just start here. This can be the first tile. Control L. Oops, it's a little slow because I think I smoothed it out. UV shell. Next will be the cheeks and under the eyes and the nose. And then under the mouth and the chin and the jaw. With this. And then the neck will be over here. And then this can be, I guess, the back of the head, and then this will be the rest of the body. And that'll be good for now. So, select these tiles, hit Control L. Let's just see if I can figure out a way to get these a little bit tighter together and blow them up a little bit more. Not really. Maybe a little bit more. That's good. I'm going to just leave these over here because every time you hit Control L, it takes it back to that first tile. There's probably a way to fix that. I think that's as good as we're going to get that one. Control L. I think this one's good too. Actually, I'm just going to scale this one down a little bit. And then let's do this one. Control L. Let's rotate this guy. Let's just put this over here. Make it a little bit more organized. Make sure these are not overlapping. Make sure this is not overlapping. And scale this down a hair. All right. That should be good. I might rearrange these by hand. Let's take care of the neck first. Control L. I don't know if there's going to be any way to fix these. I'm just going to leave it. All right, and then these guys will just sit here. And let's just make sure none of these are overlapping or going over the edge of the tile. See here, you've got this corner. And I know there's a way to, you go up to here, and where is it? Under your layout settings, there's a ton of different settings to play with here: pre-rotation, scaling and non-scaling layouts. But I haven't taken the time to really go through and see exactly what everything does. I played with it a little bit, but for now, I'm just going to show you like the manual way. All right. Maybe a little bit more texture density. I don't know if that was worth the additional effort, because this Udim setup is probably only going to be used for portraits just featuring the head. I don't even know if I'm going to be including the body in some of those, but if I do, at least I will have this here for some sort of texture representation. But I might go through and actually lay these out with these additional tiles sometime over here. But let's check out the texture density of how we have this set up. So it looks like relatively even. This neck portion, you can see the squares are a little bit larger than the face, but the main goal was to get this main face region to have as much texture density as possible, and this is probably going to be above and beyond what we really need it for. The one thing I do want to fix is the ears, because there'll be many times where they're not covered by hair. So let us go in here, and I have all this extra room in here to actually bump up the ears. So let's scale these up. See if let's take this guy down here. And this is the mouth. Inside of the mouth, it does not need to be that big. So I have one ear here. And one ear here. And then these guys can be scaled up even a little bit more. Maybe just a hair more. I think that's good. Let's take a look and see if that has improved a little bit. Not a perfect match, but then again, the ears aren't super important, but you want them to be, relatively the same size as the texture density of the most important features. You can see the eye bags are really big squares in there. The nostrils as well. And let me just hide some of these so you can see the mouth bag is all weird and warped, but it doesn't really matter. It's really going to be in shadow. Shift H to bring back what I've hidden. And then everything else looks to be about the same. So I think that's good. So I think that's pretty much it. I will show you one more thing. So let me delete the history on that. Go in the attribute editor. Oh, what colors are on here? Oh, I have no idea. I think this came in from ZBrush. But if you're going from a single tile to multi-tile to a Udim workflow, all you have to do is go to this UV tiling mode. Make sure your tiles are named correctly and in sequential order, matching up with the numbers on here. So Depending on what program you're coming from, it's either going to be UV or U1 V1, U2 V1, and then this will be V2, the vertical, or it will be labeled 1001, 1002, 1003, and I think I could be wrong. Yeah, if you're coming from ZBrush, it'll start with 0, and if you're coming from Mudbox, it'll start with 1, I believe. And I think Udim in Mari works similar to ZBrush, but I could be wrong about that. But one of these, if your tiles are labeled correctly coming from one of these programs, you should be able to find which one will work for you. And Maya will automatically find all of the tiles that you need and match them up with in sequential order to the tiles as you have them laid out. So yeah, that's the basics of how you work with Udims within Maya and how to create Udims from a single tile and kind of my thought process, how to lay them out and what was important for more texture density. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that you got something out of it. If you have any questions about anything that I went over, let me know in the comments below. I'll try to get to all of those as best I can. And until the next one, thanks for watching, guys.